Key move: Broadcom's recent decision to redomicile from Singapore to the U.S. seems to have gotten it over the final regulatory hurdles to buying California-based Brocade, as it had received antitrust approval in July but refiled in October with a U.S. body that oversees foreign investments. It also should aid in buying Qualcomm, although first it needs to make a higher offer. Wait, what? The actual movement of trains relies on a 1930s-era signal system with fraying, cloth-covered cables. See the archaic equipment. Daily ridership has nearly doubled in the past 2 decades to 5.7 million, but New York is the only major city in the world with fewer miles of track than it had during World War II. New York's subway now has the worst on-time performance of any major rapid transit system in the world. Just 65% of weekday trains reach their destinations on time, the lowest rate since the transit crisis of the 1970s. Reporters for The Times reviewed thousands of pages of state and federal documents, including records that had not previously been made public, built databases to compare New York with other cities, and interviewed more than 300 people. Let 'em out. NY Times quote of the day. Roger Toussaint, former head of the MTA's main union, on what he sees as a focus on flashy subway projects instead of maintenance. They haven't been spending money on the spine. They've been spending money on the limbs. P.S. Conductors on New York subway trains have been told to stop addressing passengers as ladies and gentlemen when making announcements about delays, detours or other things, and instead use the gender-neutral terms passengers, riders, and everyone. AP Entertainment. Celebrity chef John Besh, comedian Louis C.K. Cinefamily executives Hadrian B. Love and Shady L. Nashi. Actor Richard Dreyfuss. One woman alleges UAL harassment. He denies the allegation. Director-producer Gary Goddard. Casting employee Andy Henry. Actor Dustin Hoffman accused by woman of UAL harassing when she was 17. He has apologized. Actor Robert Knepper. Showrunner Andrew Kreisberg. Actor Jeremy Piven accused by 3 women of UAL misconduct. He denies all allegations. Filmmaker Brett Ratner. Comedy festival organizer Gilbert Razan. Producer Chris Savino. Actor Steven Seagal accused by 2 women of rape. He denies the allegations. Actor Tom Sizemore accused of groping an 11-year-old actress in 2003. Utah prosecutors declined to file charges, citing witness and evidence problems. He denies the allegation. Actor Kevin Spacey. Actor Jeffrey Tambor. Actor George Takei. Writer-director James Tabak. Mad Men creator Matthew Weiner. Actor Ed Westwick. Media, Publishing and Business. Billboard Magazine executive Stephen Blackwell. Penguin Random House art director Giuseppe Castellan. New Republic publisher Hamilton Fish. Mark Halperin. Art Forum publisher Knight Landisman. NPR News chief Michael Oreskes. Amazon executive Roy Price. Webster Public Relations CEO Kurt Webster. Rolling Stone publisher Jan Wenner accused by one man of UAL harassment. He says he did not intend to make the accuser uncomfortable. New Republic editor Leon Wiesel. NBC News booking exec Matt Zimmerman. Sen. L. Franken. DMINN. Senate candidate Roy Moore. Arala. Florida Democratic Party chairman Stephen Biddle accused of wholly inappropriate comments and behavior toward a number of women. Biddle resigned Friday. Florida Democratic State Sen. Jeff Clemens resigned after a report that he had an extramarital affair with a lobbyist. Florida Republican State Sen. Jack Latvala is being investigated by the Senate over allegations of harassment and groping. Latvala has denied the allegations. Kentucky House Speaker Jeff Hoover. British Defense Secretary Michael Fallon. International Olympic Committee member Alex Gillady. Former South African Soccer Association President Danny Jordan. Former FIFA President Sepp Blatter. PSLA Times front page today. Brett Ratner. Russell Simmons face new allegations of misconduct. Powerful Hollywood friends shared party lifestyle. Corporations win all around, with the tax rate slashed from 35% to 20% in both bills, though they'd have to wait a year for it under the Senate measure. U.S. oil companies with foreign operations would pay reduced taxes under the Senate bill on their income from sales of oil and natural gas abroad. Beer, wine and liquor producers would reap tax reductions under the Senate measure. Companies that provide management services like maintenance for aircraft. An estimated 13 million Americans could lose health insurance coverage under the Senate bill, which would repeal the Obamacare requirement that everyone in the U.S. have health insurance. People living in high-tax states would be hit by repeal of federal deductions for state and local taxes under the Senate bill, and partial repeal under the House measure. That's the result of a compromise allowing the deduction of up to $10,000 in property taxes. Many families making less than $30,000 a year would face tax increases starting in 2021 under the Senate bill, according to Congress' nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation. By 2027, families earning less than $75,000 would see their tax bills rise, while those making more would enjoy reductions. The 12-page report, issued in August, says black identity extremists are increasingly targeting law enforcement after police killings of black men. It warned that such violence was likely to continue. Black leaders and activists were outraged after Foreign Policy revealed the existence of the report last month. Why it matters. The Congressional Black Caucus, in a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray, said the report conflates black political activists with dangerous domestic terrorist organizations and would further erode the frayed relationship between police and minority communities. A similar bulletin on white supremacists came out about the same time. The FBI noted it issued a similar bulletin warning of retaliatory violence by black separatist extremists in March 2016, when the country had a black president, Barack Obama, and black Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. They paint a picture of a once communist state that has all but broken down, its state-directed economy at a standstill. Today, North Koreans are making their own way, earning money in an entrepreneurial and often illegal fashion. The aha moment market activity is exploding, and with that comes a flow of information, whether as chit-chat from traders who cross into China or as soap operas loaded on USB sticks. And this leads many North Koreans to dream in a way they hadn't before. The Huffington Post reported a study that revealed a majority of Chicago area hospitality industry employees had been newly harassed by a guest, had a guest touch or try to touch them, and more. Sexual harassment in the field of scientific research is prevalent, per Vox, when studies occur in remote workplaces like Antarctica. Kurt Webster, major country publicist, left his company after UAL assault allegations. Mark Halperin lost his book and HBO show deal, as well as contributing position with MSNBC, after 5 women accused him of harassment during his time at ABC. NPR News chief Michael Oreskes resigned after 2 women accused him of UAL misconduct and harassment. New Republic literary editor Leon Wieseltier lost financial backing on his coming magazine after being accused of UAL harassment. The backstory: during Obama's presidency, Trump often called on the administration to find ways to free Americans being held overseas. He was particularly critical that the Iran deal did not include the safe return of several American hostages. Returned home: 3 UCLA basketball players were arrested 2 weeks ago in Hangzhou, China, for shoplifting. Trump, during a visit to China the next week, asked Xi to release them. Trump then tweeted asking whether the basketball players would thank him for ensuring their release, and in a press conference they did. Aya Hijazi, an Egyptian-American charity worker, returned to the U.S. in April after being held in Cairo for 3 years. President Obama had been unable to secure her return, but Trump reportedly managed to reach an agreement with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Otto Warmbier, the UVA student who had been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in North Korea for stealing a propaganda poster while in the country for a study abroad program. He was returned to the U.S. in a coma a year later after the Trump administration managed to reach an agreement with the North Korean government. Warmbier died several days after his return. Still overseas: these are the prisoners being held overseas who Trump and his administration have been making efforts to bring back to the U.S. Leopoldo Lopez. He's a Venezuelan politician and activist who was put in jail in 2014 and transferred to house arrest in 2017. Trump tweeted about him in February, and in August, the White House said in a statement that it would hold Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro personally responsible for the health and safety of Mr. Lopez. Robert Levinson was an FBI agent who went missing in Iran 10 years ago. In 2015, then-candidate Trump swore to bring Levinson home, along with the 3 other Americans held hostage in Iran, if elected. This March, then Press Secretary Sean Spicer said, "We want him back, and we will spare no effort to achieve that goal," according to The Washington Post. Mack and Baker Namazi. In June, The Washington Post reported that the White House was ramping up efforts to return the businessman and his father home after being placed into custody in Iran in 2015. Zhui Wang is a Chinese-born American who has been sentenced to 10 years in prison in Iran for spying. In a White House statement released in July, Trump placed responsibility for Wang's health and well-being on Iran. Andrew Brunson. Last year, the pastor was taken into custody in Turkey, and the Trump administration has said it is a priority to get him home. Austin Tice. The Trump administration set up a back channel to try and secure the release of the journalist, who is being held hostage in Syria. Sen. Jeff Flake didn't realize his mic was still on after speaking at a tax reform event, telling Mesa, Arizona, Mayor John Giles, "If Republicans become the party of Roy Moore and Donald Trump, we are toast," according to Arizona's ABC affiliate. Why it matters. Flake has been an outspoken critic of the Trump administration, as well as the current attitude in the Republican Party, especially since announcing he won't seek re-election. And there's a split in the party over Roy Moore because while many Republicans have spoken out against him, the president has stayed silent. Sign up for Axios newsletters to get our smart brevity delivered to your inbox every morning.